Good morning. I hereby call to order this 15th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2016, and I ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First matter on this morning's agenda are the approval of the minutes for August 11, 2016, and I will call upon Commissioner Coleman, who is the editor of the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've reviewed the minutes of our August 11, 2016 public meeting and move that they be approved as submitted.
You have heard the motion of the approval for the minutes for August 11th. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a joint second of Commissioner Powelson and Commissioner Sweet because everyone is in such agreement to approve these minutes, and we'll just put it on the record like that. Is there any further discussion, any edits to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. At this time, we will call up our Director of Office of Special Assistance, Cheryl Walker Davis, to lead us through today's agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Morning.
May it please this Honorable Commission, on behalf of your various offices and bureaus, we present for your consideration and disposition the following agenda items, commencing this morning with matters on behalf of the Bureau of Audits. It is recommended on page 1 that the Commission adopt the recommendation with regard to the first item pertaining to the release of an audit report involving People's TWP LLC Statement of Universal Service Program over and under collections for the 12-month periods, two 12-month periods, ended 9/30/14 and 9/30/13.
Do I have a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt, on behalf of the Bureau of Audits, the release of the annual report with regard to management audits for both PAWC and Philadelphia Gas Works for the 2015-2016 fiscal years, as well as the release of management efficiency investigation results for Duquesne Light Company, as well as the UGI Group, and additional special projects and carryover projects. I should note that, Chairman Brown, you have a verbal statement.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Powelson. Under discussion, I merely, and it's not a merely, but I wanted to take the opportunity to really commend the staff in the Bureau of Audits for all the hard work they did on this report. As you know, this report summarizes each of the management audits and management efficiency investigations completed in the fiscal year of 2016. This important work results in real savings for utilities and in turn for the consumers that we're here to protect. So I just want to applaud them for their efforts and thank them for the report. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended in omnibus fashion that the Commission adopt the recommendations there appearing, commencing on page 2, with the formal complaint proceeding of Anthony Cortez versus Pico Energy Company, and continuing through the items on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, through and including the recommendation in the proceeding involving the application of JP Moving Corporation.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Powelson, with an additional second that came in later from Commissioner Sweet. I just love all this activity on the bench here. It's a hot bench. Just everyone remember that. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to page 7 of the public meeting agenda. It is recommended that the Commission adopt OSA's recommendation in the proceeding involving the informal complaint of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement against Great American Power LLC for certain alleged electric generation supplier marketing violations, noting the statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, and I heard a second by Commissioner Sweet, but I also heard something. We'll go with Commissioner Sweet this time. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? The motion passes.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I do want a
I
statement.
apologize.
Yeah, I do want a statement placed on the record regarding potential conflict with a new staff person.
I do apologize for not acknowledging you, Commissioner.
Apology accepted.
Let me take the vote again. Noting his statement. Did you want to read your whole statement, or?
No, it's stated for the record. I'll have several more of these, probably today and probably in the next meeting or two until staff members are fully integrated.
Thank you. With no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
With regard to the complaint proceeding of Alderwoods, Pennsylvania, Inc., TA Burton L. Hirsch Funeral Home versus the Duquesne Light Company, there is the motion of Commissioner Coleman as well as the statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to call up this matter for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Vice Chairman Place to call up this matter for consideration. Under discussion, I would recognize Commissioner Coleman for his motion.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd ask that the motion be entered into the record as though I had read it in its entirety. Before the Commission for Disposition is a petition for interlocutory review and answers to material questions filed by Alderwoods, Pennsylvania, Inc., Burton L. Hirsch Funeral Home. The petition seeks Commission review of an April 5th, 2016 order from the presiding officer denying Alderwoods' preliminary objections to dismiss its own formal complaint. In August of 2009, Alderwoods filed a civil complaint against Duquesne Light Company alleging neglect, restoration of electric service to Burton L. Hirsch Funeral Home in January 2009, following a vehicle accident that damaged Duquesne's electric facilities. After Duquesne restored electric service to the funeral home, a fire originated in the property's electric panel and consumed the property. Following the appellate court's decision on the nature and the extent of the duty owned by Duquesne to Alderwoods, Inc. here, Duquesne filed a motion with the trial court to bifurcate the liability portion of the complaint and transfer it to the Commission. The trial court granted this motion, which was upheld by the Pennsylvania Superior Court. On January 7, 2016, Alderwoods filed a formal complaint at the Commission against Duquesne alleging neglect, restoration of electric service related to the January 2009 incident. One day later, Alderwoods filed a preliminary objection to its own complaint alleging that the Commission does not have jurisdiction to award money damages and does not have jurisdiction over the subject matter of the complaint. On August 5, 2016, the presiding officer, by order, sustained in part and denied in part by the preliminary objection. The order sustained the preliminary objection as to the claim for monetary damages, but denied the preliminary objections that the Commission lacked jurisdiction over the complaint. In the petition, Alderwoods seeks answers to two material questions which can be summarized as raise the issues of whether the Commission has jurisdiction over the complaint. Alderwoods has proposed that each question be answered in the negative, i.e. the Commission does not have jurisdiction here. Upon review, I do not believe the compelling reasons to grant interlocutory review and answers to material questions here. First, Alderwoods has not shown that granting interlocutory review will prevent substantial prejudice. The only prejudice alleged by Alderwood is that which is associated with having to litigate the complaint if the Commission denies its petition. However, the Commission has found at the time, effort, and expense associated with having to litigate a case does not typically amount to substantial prejudice for purposes of granting interlocutory review. Second, Alderwoods has not shown that granting interlocutory review will expedite the conduct of the proceeding. To the contrary, pursuing interlocutory review seems to unnecessarily have prolonged the proceedings, as two civil courts on 3 separate occasions already have decided that the Commission has preliminary jurisdiction in this case. I see no reason to reject the court's decision and refuse to answer the transfer. For these reasons, and I believe that Autowoods has shown compelling reason to grant interlocutory review, therefore, in accordance with our regulations, I propose that we deny the answer to questions presented in the petition. Therefore, I move that the Commission decline to answer the questions presented in the petition for interlocutory review and answer the material questions filed by Autowoods consistent with this motion. This matter be returned to the presiding administrative law judge for such further proceedings that may be appropriate, and that the Office of Special Assistants prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion.
You've heard the motion by Commissioner Coleman. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion on the motion? I recognize Commissioner Sweet.
2 things, Madam Chair. One, another conflict statement for the record. But secondly, on the Commissioner's motion, I will be voting no. I believe there has been a sufficient argument here for the granting of interlocutory review. And were the Commission to agree with that position, I would have us vote no on the first question about jurisdiction. And the second question posed really would no longer be relevant were we to decline jurisdiction in the first place. As best I can understand the second question, which I think is almost as muddled as the entire procedural history of this matter. This has been through every level of the courts, Common Pleas Court, Superior Court, Supreme Court. I believe that the action of, in effect, remanding this to an administrative law judge will not expedite anything. This is going to end up in the Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas anyway, and I believe in doing justice to the parties as best we can today. We would be better off having it go back to the court, I think, to handle this case consistent with the holdings of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court on the matter. So this is an incident that occurred in January of 2009. This complaint, well, the civil complaint was filed in August of 2009. And I think, in checking my calendar, it's now 2016. And I believe that the best way to expedite this would be, in fact, to grant the interlocutory review, vote negative on question 1. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The motion passes 4-1. On the matter as amended by the motion. Any further discussion? Is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? The matter as amended by the motion passes 4-1.
Continuing with the presentation of agenda items and matters on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, commencing on page 8 of the public meeting agenda, in omnibus fashion, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendations commencing with that appearing in the matter entitled Electric Generation Supplier License Cancellations, continuing with the remaining items on page 8, as well as the first 2 items through and including the recommendation involving the application of Mansfield Power and Gas LLC on page 9.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
It is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation involving the petition of the Duquesne Light Company for approval of its long-term infrastructure improvement plan, as well as its distribution system improvement charge, noting the statement of Vice Chairman Place.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Sweet. Under discussion, I would recognize Vice Chairman Place.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I ask that my statement be placed in the record as if I've read it in its entirety. Before us today for consideration are the petitions of Duquesne Light Company for approval of its long-term infrastructure improvement plan, or LTIP, as well as its distribution system improvement charge at the above-mentioned docket. Duquesne's LTIP was filed on April 15, 2016, and several parties filed timely comments. In reviewing Duquesne's filing as well as the submitted comments, the Commission issued 2 secretarial letters to Duquesne requesting additional information regarding its LTIP, including historical baseline infrastructure replacement and capital spending for the categories of eligible property, as well as historical and projected baseline expenditures and project categories. In August 2016, Duquesne filed responses to the Commission's secretarial letters. The supplemental information in response to the Commission's secretarial letters has provided sufficient detail for the Commission to approve this filing. However, additional specificity will be necessary for the Commission to continue to monitor the progress of Duquesne's LTIP through the required annual asset optimization plan filings and to monitor the company's improvements in reliability through Duquesne's required quarterly and annual reliability reports. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Continuing with the presentation of matters on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the recommendation involving the application of Stanwick Energy Advisors LLC, appearing at the bottom of page 9, as well as the recommendation in the application proceeding of Josco Energy USA LLC on page 10.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Law Bureau, appearing on page 11 of the public meeting agenda with regard to the first item pertaining to a recommendation to incorporate additional implementation procedures into the Commission's Act 11 implementation strategy. There is your motion, Chairman Brown.
Is there a motion to call up this matter for consideration? There's second. Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Powelson. At this point, I will turn it over to Vice Chairman Place to preside.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to recognize Chairman Brown for the purposes of her motion. Chairman Brown.
Thank you. I would ask that my motion be spread upon the record in its entirety, and I will summarize it for you. Before the Commission is the Act 11 Supplemental Implementation Order. This order addresses a number of issues related to the Distribution System Improvement Charge, or commonly known as DISC. One discrete issue raised in this proceeding is whether the Commission has the authority to exclude the E-factor reconciliation component from the computation of the DISC cap. In my reading of Act 11, it's very clear that the Commission has been given authority to waive the cap upon petition of a utility. The question at hand is whether the Commission has the authority to completely exclude the E-factor from the calculation of the DISC rate cap without a utility first justifying it. The Office of Consumer Advocate submits that the exclusion of the E-factor from the calculation of the rate cap has the same effect as a direct waiver of the DISC rate cap. The First Energy companies point out that the E-factor and the C-factor are both described together in Section 1358 of the Code. Further, the First Energy companies state that they are unaware of a statutory provision that would allow the Commission to exclude the E-factor. I agree with these comments. Act 11 does not empower the Commission to uniformly disaggregate the E-factor from the DISC calculation. It grants the Commission the authority to waive the DISC rate cap upon petition of an individual utility. The form of this waiver may come in the exclusion of the E-factor, or in an increase of the rate cap to a new percentage, or in whatever form that a utility validly claims is necessary to ensure safe and reliable service. Such waivers must be made on a case-by-case basis and substantiated within the context of a utility's petition. Therefore, I move that One, the supplemental implementation order for the implementation of Act 11 of 2012 be modified consistent with this motion. And two, the Law Bureau prepare a supplemental implementation order consistent with this motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Chair is yours.
On a matter as amended by the motion, is there any further discussion? Is there any objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter as amended passes 5-0.
It is recommended that the commission adopt the Law Bureau's recommendation with regard to the petition of Lancaster EMS Association for a waiver of the commission's regulations pertaining to the age requirement of its drivers.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to matters presented on behalf of the Office of Administrative Law Judge on page 12 of the public meeting agenda, it should be noted that the first matter pertaining to ALJ Salapa's initial decision involving Jesse Howard versus Concordia Communications Corporation has been postponed until public meeting of October the 6th. It is recommended, well, it should be noted that with regard to the next proceeding involving ALJ Long's initial decision, in the proceeding involving Perry Sherman versus PPL Electric Utilities Corporation, there appears your motion, Madam Chairman.
Is there a motion to call up this matter for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Sweet. Under discussion, I will turn it over to Vice Chairman Place.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to recognize Chairman Brown for the purposes of her motion. Chairman Brown.
This case involves a complaint about noise allegedly emitted by PPL Electric Utility Corporation, Susquehanna, Roseland High Voltage Electric Transmission Line. Based on the evidence presented on the record, I concur with ALJ Long's dismissal of the complaint. Although the complainant failed to meet the burden of proof to support his complaint, I acknowledge his frustration with the situation. There was a dearth of evidence on the record regarding standards for transmission line noise or options for noise mitigation. I believe that these are issues that warrant further analysis by the Commission. Therefore, I move that the ALJ initial decision be adopted, the matter be referred to the Commission's Bureau of Technical Utility Services for further analysis and action as it deems appropriate, and third, the Office of Special Assistance prepare an opinion and order consistent with this motion.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Gavel is yours.
On this matter as amended by the motion, any further discussion? If not, is there an objection to taking the previous roll call? Hearing none, the matter as amended passes 5-0.
That does conclude the presentation of regular agenda items. Turning now to the carry-in agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the Law Bureau's recommendation regarding the petition for reconsideration in the matter involving Unique Energy, Inc.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Powelson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, that does conclude the presentation of agenda items.
Thank you very much. Before we adjourn, I would like to recognize Vice Chairman Place for comments concerning Pennsylvania American Water Company.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Last week, I had the privilege of attending Dollar Energy Fund's annual luncheon, at which Pennsylvania American Water was recognized for its Help to Others limited income assistance program. Please note that there's no commission mandate for water utilities to establish these types of assistance programs. PA American voluntarily built this program in 1991 and subsequently has provided $3.8 million in temporary hardship support to almost 18,000 households throughout the Commonwealth. As we all know, many Pennsylvanians struggle to afford their monthly utility bills. There are many, of course, organizations like the Dollar Energy Fund and many programs within utilities to reach and provide assistance to limited income customers. I did, though, want to take this opportunity to note that these efforts are a reminder of the fundamental needs of many thousands of Pennsylvanians and the value, whether it's water or gas or electric, of enabling families to stay in their homes, to go to work, to go to school, and to participate in the communities in which they live throughout the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Place. And continuing on with our theme of water, I would recognize Commissioner Powelson.
Thank you, Chairman. This morning, the PUC is honored to join with numerous elected officials, water utilities across the Commonwealth, and community leaders in recognizing National Imagine a Day Without Water, a nationwide effort to increase awareness about the importance of water conservation. Imagine no water to drink, no water to shower, to flush a toilet, or to do laundry. Hospitals would close without water. Power plants could not run. Firefighters couldn't put out fires, and farmers couldn't water their crops. As we all know, water is an important resource that many of us take for granted. I certainly can attest to that in my household. And it is the only utility, as a former chairman of the Neighborhood Water Committee, that I often remind people, it is the only commodity that we physically ingest. National Imagine a Day Without Water reminds us just how valuable our water resources are and how important it is to continue to invest in water infrastructure that is necessary to ensure safe and reliable service. Too often, we lose sight of the fact that our water infrastructure is aging and is in need of replacement, and I'm proud of the work that we've done here in Pennsylvania under our water disc mechanism to accelerate the replacement of some of the older water mains and cast iron piping across the state. This morning, I'd like to commend the many Pennsylvania water utilities that have taken an active role in replacing their aging infrastructure with obviously the use of the disc mechanism. However, there is always more to be done to ensure our water systems remain up to date. The importance of water and safe and reliable water systems is an issue that deserves a continual national attention. By the way, the United States Senate, as a result of the tragic events that taken place in Flint, Michigan, is debating this week an effort to provide funding to some of our public water systems across the country to deal with this issue of lead. This morning, again, I appreciate the effort that's been offered to me to recognize this whole nationwide initiative, Imagine a Day Without Water, and I commend my fellow colleagues here for their work on behalf of our water industry and the advocacy for water infrastructure here in Pennsylvania. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Powelson. And with that, if there's no further matters to come before the commission, I will say that the meeting is adjourned.